Hey guys, HMK. Welcome to another episode of Gaming Misconceptions. This one is gonna focus on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Finally, we have it. And I feel that's gonna be a very special episode. So usually I do 5 misconceptions about a video game or a video game series, but in today's video, it's gonna be 10. Let me know about the change if you want me to do it in future videos. So without further ado, let's get into 10 misconceptions, 10 gaming misconceptions on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There are larger dungeons in this game, and that's about everything we know about them. So there are a bunch of people that have a slight panic at the thought of larger scale dungeons not returning in Breath of the Wild. The game has confirmed to feature over 100 Sheikah shrines that act as small dungeon challenges meant to test the hero and rewards those who complete them with spirit orbs, runes for your Sheikah slate, items, and more. With this new feature and the fact that Link could go anywhere at almost any time, even the final boss from the beginning, had people assuming that bigger dungeons that we were used to in the Zelda series would not return. Well, don't worry, Aonuma and his team confirmed that Dungeons of Zelda Yore will indeed return. But that is all they're gonna say about that. Seriously, it was all like, yeah, dungeons will be back, conversation over. More than likely, they will heavily impact the story of the game, something that the team at E3 didn't want spoiled too much. This isn't the first game in which Link can jump manually and organically. No lie, everyone was freaking out when we first saw that Link could jump manually in Breath of the Wild without the use of an item. Everyone was asking for a feature like this and what it could do for the Zelda series. However, a lot of people got the misconception that this was the first time that Link could jump on his own. That isn't true. An old forgotten game by the name of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link allowed our hero to jump to his heart's content in a side-scrolling adventure. To be fair, this is going to be the first 3D Zelda adventure to allow us this ability, so that's something indeed. Link being right-handed is not due to potential motion controls. Link in Breath of the Wild is right-handed, something that got Zelda fans thinking because other than Skyward Sword and the flipped Wii version of Twilight Princess, that doesn't count, Link is naturally left-handed. The only reason why Link was right-handed in Skyward Sword and Wii's Twilight Princess was because of motion controls. So many people assume that Breath of the Wild may incorporate some sort of motion control. Well, that isn't the case. The only type of motion control we see in Breath of the Wild is gyro sensitivity when aiming, on the Wii U version at least. The reasoning for Link being right-handed was pretty weird. Aonuma stated, in terms of right-handedness of things, when we think about which hand Link is going to use, we think about the control scheme. With the gamepad, the buttons that you use to swing the sword are on the right side, thus he's right-handed. Okay, but that's not like every other control scheme that Link had when he was left-handed had the attack button on the right side of the controller. Not much of a reason, but hey, it's the word of God. Villages and NPCs are returning and were removed from the demo at E3 to avoid spoilers. I don't get why this fact got messed up or missed in translation, but it is confirmed that NPCs and villages were indeed removed from the E3 2016 demo, and the reason why the villages were removed is because Aonuma stated the villages are closely connected and woven into the game's story, and that was one thing that they really avoid talking about at E3 2016. They didn't want it to be spoiled, so it makes a good amount of sense as the game's story progression is done completely by the player's own pace, and villages seem to be a key in that pace. Breath of the Wild was delayed due to problems with the physics engine, not new ideas. So this one is a bit on the dark side. Breath of the Wild was originally intended to be released in 2015, but was delayed to 2 years later in 2017. What was originally reported is that it was delayed in order to add more gameplay features and ideas, something that was standard practice in Zelda delays. However, after the big reveal of the game at E3 2016, Miyamoto and Aonuma explained that the main reason for the delay was due to problems with the intricate physics engine that they were creating for the game. Though I feel those were a bit on the grimy side and we were misled about it a bit, This seems like a good enough reason, as the physics in Breath of the Wild are insane. I can see the team having problems with that in the past, like, whoa. 100 Monolith Soft workers are not working on the game. It's 100 Nintendo employees. During all of the interviews that the Zelda team were focusing on at the E3 2016 event, it was let slip that apparently 100 Monolith Soft workers were helping development of Breath of the Wild alongside Nintendo employees. Monolith Soft are the people who developed Xenoblade Chronicles X. However, this quote was slightly misinterpreted. While there are Monolith Soft employees indeed working on the game, it isn't 100 of them. What that quote really meant is that over 100 Nintendo employees, along with some Monolith Soft workers, are working on development for the game. That is still an intense number. Breath of the Wild was always intended for a dual release. Now, this one definitely rubbed me the wrong way, but I'm over it at this point. But apparently Nintendo always intended to have Breath of the Wild dual release on the Wii U and the NX from the beginning. You know, even saying many times that this Zelda game was headed exclusively to the Wii U, I understand that system did bad, but damn, saying something like this when apparently you always intended to have a release on both consoles, I mean, what's done is done. Breath of the Wild is considered to be an open-air game, not open world. Now, many people, myself included, have been calling this game an open-world genre game. Well, Nintendo doesn't seem to agree, and Nintendo does a Nintendo thing that Nintendo would and decide to dub Breath of the Wild its own genre that they coined, an open-air game. Nintendo's reasoning for this name stems from this statement that Miyamoto released, saying, "I look at this game and I see a world that's fully integrated into exploration and the adventure. It's not just a world you're passing through, it's sort of a world that you're a part of, so much of the adventure and exploration is in this outdoor space, and the theme of wilderness collectively seemed like open air was the right fit for it." That's a pretty bold statement, but I can see where they're coming from when talking about the differences between Breath of the Wild and other open world genre of games. The E3 demo accounted for 1% of the game's content, not the game's world, so a lot of people seem to take another statement from Breath of the Wild and have slightly misinterpreted it. This game is going to be huge, everyone can see that right away, but people got giddy at the notion that the demo at E3 2016 accounted for 1% of the game's total map size. Whoa, that would be huge. However, this is false. Nintendo actually stated and meant that the demo seen at E3 and everything in it accounts for 1% of the game's content and size overall. The enemies, the weapons, the clothes, the shrines, the area is only 1% of what we can expect to see in the final product. That is insane. To give you more of an accurate map size statistic, Nintendo stated that the map size will be 12 times bigger than that of Twilight Princess, which is still hella impressive. Breath of the Wild is not a remake of Zelda 1. Sure, there are many connections between Breath of the Wild and the first Legend of Zelda game, with many people still believing that this game is a remake of the first game in a huge, bold 3D fashion, but Nintendo has made it clear that this is not the case. Miyamoto had this to say: "The relationship between Breath of the Wild and The Legend of Zelda first comes from the reactions of people who have been able to test the game. We are not trying to recreate the first Zelda. At that time, the latter was created with the idea of freedom and action and a miniature garden in mind. When the series started to evolve, we wanted to make more and more games with only one path to follow. We pushed us to create larger and more complex dungeons, to imagine enigmas requiring specific items, which ended up giving very sequential games. We then decided to go back to the roots of the series and started to develop the game as we are showing it today." So Breath of the Wild definitely has some inspirations from the first Zelda game, but is definitely not the first Zelda game reborn. There you have it, 10 misconceptions, gaming misconceptions, of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I hope you guys learned something, and what was your favorite misconception? Leave it in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, favorite, and most importantly, subscribe to HMK for more Zelda Breath of the Wild videos. Until the next one, I've been HMK, and I'll check you guys later.